The following program is underwritten by the Nevada Irrigation District. Since 1921, providing clean and healthy drinking and irrigation water to more than 24,000 homes, farms, schools, and businesses in Nevada and Placer counties.
Hi, welcome to Nevada County Television. This is NCTV Interviews. I'm your host, Lew Sitzer, and we're going to learn about fire today. We have with us two gentlemen who work to protect our homes and community. Spike Newby, who is Battalion Chief of Nevada County Consolidated, and Jim Marquis, who is Grass Valley Fire Chief. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We have close to 90 degrees, high winds, very dry. It's the middle of May. What do you have to say about what we're experiencing as a fire season?
Well, we're at red flag today, as you said, middle of May, and all indications are we're in for something similar, I would say, to what we had last year in terms of field conditions and the advanced drying of the fuels. Spike was just talking about that we're 2 months ahead, and we might show some fuel moisture charts in a little bit.
Yeah, we're a good 2 months ahead of schedule, and just listening to the activity that's around this county today, we've got a fire that's burning over in the El Dorado County, and another one that's burning up in Butte County, and there was one earlier today in Napa County. So these are all 50-plus acre fires, so it just shows that, you know, the temperature, the fuel, the conditions are already right, and we're talking the middle of May.
And so we are on red flag alert. What does that mean? And I imagine we'll talk more about it as we see slides, but does that mean that you folks are on any more of an alert than you would be normally?
Well, red flag, among other things, it's a warning to primarily to the troops on the ground that the potential in fire weather exists for large fire development due to dryness, winds, and sometimes lightning. So it's an indication of the potential.
Here in the county, another thing that it does for us is it identifies additional resources that we'll make available to respond on initial attack to these wildland fire situations. As an example, today, early this morning, we made the decision to bring on additional personnel to staff 2 water tenders today, and those will be staffed until 8 o'clock tonight. We will again tomorrow staff those same water tenders again because of the red flag situation that we're under.
So are tankers anymore, the flight, the crews that deliver fire retardant, are they any more active at our airports today than they would normally be?
I think we're just getting the first tanker today.
The aircraft doesn't go on contract until June the 15th. So any aircraft that's up today, and there are a few tankers that are in the air and some spotter aircraft, but those were all called on today to deal with these specific fires. They are not yet on their normally scheduled basis to be on. That won't happen until June the 15th.
So, but resources are available on an on-call basis as needed.
That's correct. Yep.
Well, maybe we should go on to look at some of the visuals you provided for us, and we can begin to talk about some of the issues in depth.
Sure. Well, I think when we were laying the groundwork for today, we were talking about what contributes to large fire growth. Certainly a red flag day sets the potential, and then beyond that, we look at fuels, weather, topography as elements that contribute to fire spread, and then we ultimately have to be able to try and contain that with initial attack capability. And Spike was talking about if we don't catch them, we're chasing them.
So on fires like we're looking at right now, I assume we're looking at topography here.
Well, as you can see in the slide you're looking at now, there's a slope, an uphill slope that the flames are actually licking up that slope right now. And, it's the slope and the fuel and are two of the major components that are going to add to fire spread. Fire is going to burn rapidly uphill. It's going to consume whatever fuel is available on those slopes, whether it be light, flashy fuel in the grasses, or it be the brush, or the timber, whichever one's present. It's going to take those fuels and it's going to consume them. And as you know, fire will create its own wind also. And wind is another major component that spreads fire. So it may not be a real windy day on any given day, but as the fire continues to grow, then the potential for it to develop its own wind increases, which then adds to fire spread.
The folks that we're looking on the slide right now, they don't look like they're panicking or running. How much in danger are they at this point?
Well, what you have there are the hand crews, and these crews are very experienced in working in these types of conditions and situations. And you don't see it right there, but there's a lookout posted that is looking out. That person's only responsibility is to look out for the safety of those people right there. And if that fire was to start to look like it was going to change direction in any way, then those crews would be notified and they would move out of that area immediately. But they do this all the time. This is what they're trained to do, and they're very proficient at what they do, and they're aware of the safety factors that they have to observe in that environment.
I think we're seeing more and more fires these days in California, and I imagine elsewhere in the country. So is that resource growing in terms of fire personnel? In the previous slide, the crews that we were looking at there are the crews from the California Department of Corrections, and that is where the majority of the hand crews come from for CAL FIRE. Now on the federal side, the forest, they use their hotshot crews, which are not incarcerated individuals. Those are young men and women who come onto the forest and become members of their hand crew teams, and they're a very highly proficient and elite group of individuals on all those hotshot teams. But you take the hotshot crews from the federal forest, you take the hand crews that are the incarcerated people that working in the CAL FIRE environment, and together they make up a vast amount of the workforce, of the manpower that's utilized on these wildland fires. They're the people who are actually cutting that hand line around these fires in those areas that are inaccessible to mechanized equipment such as the bulldozers. So Jim, what's going on here?
Well, this is an interesting picture because it shows how fuel moisture affects the propagation of fire. I mean, you can have snow on the ground, the temperatures can be obviously cold, but if you've got fuel moisture low enough and adequate wind to fan the fire, you can burn timber across a snowfield. And so that's one of the contributing factors we talked about. Fuels, the fuel moisture, fuel arrangement, the wind, the topography. Those are the big three.
Don't normally think of fires in the middle of winter, but this is a real clear case of one.
And the 1,000-hour fuels, we call them the heavy dead fuels, are low by historical standards right now in the high country, ahead of seasonal norms.
This particular slide is showing today's red flag warnings where they're currently located, and as you can see that the Central Valley of Northern California is all under a red flag warning today, and that's everything that's to the east of the coastal range and west of the Sierra Nevada. So pretty much all of Northern California is under a red flag warning to date, and it's basically due to the high winds that we're experiencing today coming out of the north and the northeast.
Right, and this is the kind of thing, I'm not even sure that burning is permitted much any longer locally, but I know that it used to be you'd call in to find out if it's a burn day. Do they still, I mean, is that still an active program, and where are we in it?
You can still burn. Burning permits are required now as of May 1st, and you have to come into one of the fire stations in the county that issue those burning permits. That burning permit has regulations on it which dictate how you're going to burn. The Air Pollution Control Board are the ones who dictate what days you're going to burn on based on the air pollution in the air. But one of the things that the fire service will do, and specifically CAL FIRE, is that on days where air pollution may have determined that it would be a permissive burn day, if we start to get winds during the daytime, then the CAL FIRE will shut the burning off that day, because we've already had numerous escape debris fires this year, and basically it's all been as a result of these wind events that we've been experiencing here recently.
This shows the is a fuel moisture chart showing the Manzanita fuel model, and you can see it was the top line there, the finer line, is the seasonal norm line, and the bottom one is where we were last year, and the middle kind of is this year's trend. And we were tracking pretty well with seasonal norms until we had that big freeze, and that killed the growth tips on the Manzanita, and essentially put dead fuel all around the outside of the Manzanita. And so now you see that our fuel moisture level is way low and about 2 months ahead, as Spike was saying, 2 months ahead of where it would seasonally be.
Right, and it didn't just knock down the Manzanita, it knocked down a lot of vegetation, so in terms of moisture, the new growth isn't there, so the moisture isn't there, and so everything is more flammable.
Correct.
Right, and so we're going to have to be, this is going to have to be a careful fire season.
And those charts looked much like that last year. We started early and went hard. So we talked about kind of what contributes to large fire growth in terms of fuels, weather, topography, and then our ability to contain it while it's small is the critical factor that follows next, and that boils down to resources and access and some things like that, but primarily resources. And even in our all-risk environment here, not just wildland fire, but structure fire. In this case, I think we're looking at a picture of the Friar Tuck's fire from quite a few years back. But even that outstripped our ability to manage it in terms of resource, and we brought in mutual aid. We'll be talking about mutual aid here a little bit today.
That's quite a lineup of fire trucks, and this is over the freeway in Nevada City. And even in that structural fire of Friar Tuck's, you had to call on outside resources. It's surprising, because it looks like it doesn't look like a huge fire, but of course it's right in the middle of town, so you don't want it to go anywhere.
Although the fire ended up eventually being contained within the Friar Tuck's building there, the commonality is that you had numerous buildings there that were joined together, and what was being looked at on that particular fire was its potential. And the potential is that we could have lost the entire city block. I remember getting up that morning and hearing Channel 3 talk about the fire in Nevada City, and that a whole city block was on fire. And fortunately it didn't turn out that way, but we had to order resources to deal with what the worst case scenario could have been. And because of the amount of resources that are needed to deal with that type of a thing, as Jim was saying, we utilize a mutual aid system, which is very effective.
And that's a key point that Spike just raised about getting ahead of the reflex curve on resources. I mean, you can place the order and it takes a little while to get them. So it's very important to early on assess the potential of your incident and order accordingly. And then if hopefully you turn the corner, you can send them home.
So how does the mutual aid system work?
Well, the mutual aid system in California goes back to the 50s, back to the civil defense era, and was established so that we could, and it took a lot of work, and it also was fine-tuned on the fire side through the firestorms they had in Southern California back in the 70s, and where the need for interagency cooperation using similar terminology, communication plans, a command system were all proven essential. And out of those efforts and to cooperate as agencies came the model for the fire and rescue mutual aid system. And it's based on the idea that you have a responsibility as a jurisdiction to reasonably prepare through staff and equipment for the probable emergencies in your jurisdiction. And with an understanding, though, that occasionally there's going to be the emergency that's going to require more resource than you have. And at that point, mutual aid is requested, and it's provided voluntarily by other fire departments in an organized way that we'll look at in a minute here. And so that you get the closest resource and at no cost. Now, other than we have a responsibility to provide logistical support to those resources, food, water, fuel, such as that. But otherwise, it's a contribution that's made voluntarily.
Well, that's tremendous because, you know, you always hear about costs. And of course, there are costs involved, but there's some reserve, I would guess, to absorb the additional need for others.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do have some agreements that when we go on wildland fires through the mutual aid system, that there's reimbursement for cost from the wildland agencies when we're assisting with their mission. But strictly local government, for instance, the Friar Tuck's fire we were looking at, that would have been free master mutual aid assistance.
Great.
The way the program is organized is it starts at, well, the individual departments, of course, belong to a county fire chiefs association, similar in Nevada County. We have the Nevada County Fire Chiefs Association. They elect what's known as an operational area coordinator. Each county, each of the 58 counties in California has one. Spike effectively functions as our operational area coordinator in Nevada County, coordinating those requests within the county. And I'm the alternate region coordinator, and we'll show that map again in a minute. There's 6 regions in the state, each of which has anywhere from 5 to 16 counties in them. And the region coordinator's job is to coordinate within those counties the mutual aid. And also then, if it outstrips what's available within the region in terms of resource, to go to the state, and then the request is brokered to another region to get additional assistance. So that's how when Southern California is burning, they work up through the regions, drawing resource. And of course, we have to maintain a reserve capacity. Spike makes sure that we have enough resource in Nevada County for our core mission. We don't give it all away. And that's a call that, that's made. It's pretty fluid.
One of the nice things, too, about the master mutual aid system is that, for instance, here in Nevada County, if we were to have a significant fire event here, today, for example, within the central part of the county here, we've got 7 fire stations in our joint operational area that are staffed with the apparatus and personnel. And that's going to give us about 15 to 20 people on the initial attack on a fire. If that fire gets away from our ability to contain it in the early aspects of the fire, and we have to reach out to the master mutual aid system for assistance, within about 8 hours, we can have up to 1,000 firefighting personnel into Nevada County to assist us with our mission of containing the fire.
It seemed like last summer when fires were raging throughout the state, there was quite a pull on resources, and it seemed like not only were people being pulled from all over California, but the federal government was probably involved as well.
Interesting you say that, because I was in Southern California last year on one of the CAL FIRE management teams, and it's the second time in California's history that the governor asked for assistance outside the state of California, where we had fire engines from as far away as New Mexico, Montana, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, into California to help us with our emergency. And it's really, it makes you feel good to know now that not only are California resources able to help each other within California, but that the governors now are starting to think more globally. And let's reach out and grab our neighboring states to assist us when that need arises. So the model that's established in California is really becoming a model for the United States, because we've implemented it so many times, and as Jim was saying earlier, this thing has been very well tuned, and it's a very well organized and operating machine. And so people are looking at us, how come you guys do it so well? Well, we use it, we practice it, we do it every year.
And before we go to that place of having to go outside the state, though, we've mobilized in excess usually of 1,000 local government engines from the 800 or so fire departments in California. And almost all were participating last year by the time the siege hit its peak. And in fact, I think we had 1,100 engines mobilized through local government through the master mutual aid system.
Well, it's good to know there's help when you need it.
And it's, as Spike was saying, it's become the model for the country and the national mutual aid system, which is post 9/11 development to recognize that we need.
And we also know that the fire danger is a recurrent danger. We live with it. It's here, as you were saying earlier, Spike. It's something that the public has grown more aware of.
Well, I think, anywhere, this particular fire right here, I believe is the Cedar Fire down in Southern California, and this roadway appears to be the one that's leading up to the community of Julian. But just think of yourself being on a fire engine, seeing what you're seeing on this slide. That's the environment that you're going into. And then the other thing is the people who live around there, they're seeing this, and they're having to react to this too. What is happening? My gosh, are we going to be safe, not safe, stay, leave, go, whatever? I will say, though, that if you're a resident and you see that kind of activity out your window, yes, it's time to go.
Right.
You probably should have already been gone.
One of the things we'd like to do in the remainder of the program is to pull up the websites and numbers that the public should tune into and contact in case of a fire, because it's not always clear, how what's going to happen and who's in danger. So those websites should be coming up pretty soon. What's happening here?
Well, this is a sky crane heavy helitanker operating obviously in front of a pretty interesting flare-up, and it's one of the resources that's brought to bear on a large fire. And although not through the master mutual aid system per se, CDF resources, CAL FIRE resources are participatory in the mutual aid system. So if local government's in need, the CAL FIRE resources are made available through mutual aid, including their air tankers and helicopters if necessary.
That particular helicopter was what we call an assistance by hire. They're private companies who contract with the Forest Service and CAL FIRE to make themselves available during fire season to help us with our aerial assault on these major fires. Here we have a federal air tanker that's making a drop on a federal fire. And, one of the things that you look up in the sky and you see these tankers flying around, a lot of people don't know that the different tankers work for different organizations. The markings on this aircraft right here indicate that that is a federal contract air tanker. The ones you see flying over the skies here in Grass Valley that people are familiar with seeing going in and out of the airport, those are CAL FIRE air tankers, but they also provide assistance to the U.S. Forest Service when called also. This is what happens in a firestorm situation when you have a rapidly moving fire that is wind-driven. As the vegetation burns, it emits hot embers off of it, which are picked up by the wind currents, and then those are blown well out in advance of the fire, and those hot embers can land on your home, decks, porches, different aspects of the house that are wood, flammable material, and they can start your home on fire. As you can see in this slide, it appears that the steps going up into the house are on fire as a result, most likely, of a hot ember landing on it. And the crews are on scene now, going to try and make an attack to save the home.
Right. This is the time of year to rake out under your decks, clean out all the debris that could catch fire, because a lot of those flying embers catch under decks, from what I understand.
Yes, they do. And, not only to do your gutters and clean out from underneath your decks, but don't forget to address your 100 foot of defensible space around your home. And that's very important for two reasons. Number one, it's important to you, the homeowner, to provide that safety around your house, but it's also providing a safe working environment for the firefighters who are going to go in there and attempt to save your home. If the vegetation is growing right up to the edge of your house, such as you see in the slide we're looking at now, you can't put firefighters safely into that environment to try to save that structure. So when you create your defensible space, you're doing it twofold, for yourself and for the safety of the firefighters who are going to come in there and try to save your home for you.
Right.
And I think the websites we have give good reference materials on that. Fire Safe Council of Nevada County and the CAL FIRE website, FireWise websites, they all have good information on defensible space.
And I'll mention them again, since I seem to have the card in my hand that should be posting the websites on TV. It's firewise.org, Fire Safe Council Nevada Nevco, firesafecouncilnevco.com, and fire.ca.gov. Also, you can go to UBNet, and they are a great resource for fire information. And of course, the local radio. We will be broadcasting fire information as we get it during our workday. Hopefully there won't be much information coming forth. We won't need much. The public is getting smarter, getting better educated about how to protect themselves and the community. So it's good to see that's going on. Anything more here?
Go ahead, Spike.
Let's hope we don't see this in Nevada County.
It's extreme fire behavior.
That's very extreme fire behavior. That's the type of a situation that was prevalent during the 49er fire in 1988 here in Nevada County. And since then, we haven't had anything significant in area with the exception of the Tronner fire in 1993. So for the last 15 years, we've been very fortunate in Nevada County in the fact that we've been able to, keep our fires small. And hopefully it's our goal that we will continue to do that for the residents of Nevada County.
I continue to work on our property. I go out with a chainsaw and loppers and continue to work on it. And I get a little nervous sometimes if I go out, let's say it's on a summer morning and it's hot and I'm working with a chainsaw. I don't want to work too much further in the day because I'm afraid of something sparking. So any advice for people who want to maintain that defensible space ongoingly?
You have to remember that as we go into the summer, our temperatures rise, our fuel moistures are dropping in our fuels, and you're exactly right. You need to do your vegetation management now in the morning hours and try to get out there, as early as you can. A lot of times it's, what will the neighborhood allow with regards to noise and how soon I can get out there. But, look at about 10 o'clock as your cutoff time now for your doing your mowing and doing your weed eating and whatnot. And then take the rest of the day off and enjoy yourself.
Well, this is about our cutoff time, so I want to thank you very much, Spike Newby from Consolidated Nevada County and Jim Marquis from Grass Valley Fire Department Fire Chief. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Gail Woodman and Marilyn Blum. Thanks to Bill Carquest, our station engineer. Please continue to watch and support Nevada County Television.